free, right? But the moment you cross a certain threshold, like you want to transfer more than 2 lakh rupees, then these costs kind of start coming up and the bank essentially starts charging them, right? And this is primarily what is happening in the financial sector. And the biggest problem that is there is that there's something called settlement. So when you do a transfer across to your friend, what essentially happens in UPI is that your money gets deducted from your account and your friend's money gets added because of the UPI system. But the banks do not exchange the cash until like 2 or 3 days later. That's when the real settlement happens between the banks. They just have made a system in place which essentially does the job. So you do need people in the system to settle the transaction after the money has been transferred to your friend's account. So this is pretty much the distant future. You have open banking where there's a lot of data about customers available. You have services which are essentially doing a lot of things. And then you know what is happening here with payments, right? With payments, you are paying with your QR code these days. No one uses cash anymore. And this is pretty much the distant future that we see, right? So why should we worry about this distant future? Right. I mean, why does it matter? It's business as usual, right? I can still transfer cash to my friend. I can do QR code to make payments. Why care about it, right? So think about it this way: that you guys are the next generation of people, and you're in a place where you need to enter into the workforce where technology is rapidly changing. A lot of you would go into financial sector, and the financial sector is rapidly evolving. There's a lot of innovations happening with blockchain and cryptos and all those things. How do you incorporate it? And that's where we are going towards. So to ask you a question, do you know about this phone? Can anyone tell me what's the name of this phone?
I guess someone has answered Nokia 1100.
It's not 1100. Yeah, it's 2310. Or I think it's 6610, one of those phones, the brick, right? As Vignesh mentions. So this is a phone. So Nokia phones had around 50% of the market share in 2007, and which by 2012, it fell down to 3%. Similarly, there's this phone called BlackBerry, which was used by a lot of business professionals. It had 20% of the market share, which fell down all the way to zero when the smartphone came. What happened here, and can it happen to banks? Right. So this is what a iPhone or a smartphone looks like. Right. The reason why people migrated to this is not because it's a fancy phone it's like nice to flip and use it. I did have those features which attracted the initial set of users. But at the same time that iPhone was being released, Nokia still had a touch phone. They had released that 3-4 years before the iPhone came out, right? So what was the innovation over here? It was not with the fact that it was nice to use, easy to use. What actually captured the users and kept them there was the platform. The fact that apps could be made on Play Store, on the App Store, and delivered to your mobile by third parties, right? Rather than, especially if you had a Nokia phone back then, all the apps or any kind of program that was there on it was always created by the company themselves, right? So that kind of it did not allow innovation to happen, and as a result, what you saw is that the iPhone and the Android phones, what they did is they opened it up for developers to essentially build solutions on their platform, and they just sold the platform as the device and the OS, right? And that is typically where the financial industry is moving also right now, right? With Paytm, Alibaba, WeChat, and all these guys becoming that kind of a platform where financial services can be delivered. Right. So just before moving forward, there was one of the comments that Vignesh mentioned is that money is valued by something, right? It is. I thought of currency being backed by gold. Yes. So this is a big misconception that a lot of people have, is that it is money is backed by gold. This is called the gold standard. This was something that happened in the 1930s. that the American government kind of said, okay, every dollar that is there in the market should be backed by gold. But in the 70s, what they did is they introduced this concept called fiat. What a fiat is that you remove the peg from the gold, and then they say that any money that is issued by the government can, or government or the bank, the central bank, they can issue it just like that. They can print it and release it, and the government has to buy bonds, or anyone has to buy bonds, and then they maintain a demand supply for that bond in the market, and that kind of keeps the peg of the money that is there in the market. So these days, I don't know if you've heard about it, the Fed printing money, these kind of concepts, you must have heard in the news. What they do is they keep printing money, and then they figure out a way to essentially suck the money out of the market by increasing interest rates. So this is pretty much how money is being controlled in the world right now. No country these days have a gold standard. No one adheres to that. Even India has India's fiat is managed by the bond market, and that's how it essentially functions, right? So moving on. So if you have to do a financial transaction, there, let's say two people, Rahul and Anjali, are there, and Rahul wants to sell a car to Anjali, and Anjali has to pay cash for it, right? So this is a normal transaction all of us are familiar with, and this is how we do normal financial transactions. But let's assume they want to do a transaction via their bank. No one has a lot of black money or anything kept in their hands anymore, right? So everyone transacts to their bank. So if they have the same bank, then it's pretty much straightforward, right? So that's the first thing, version 1, where both of them use the same bank. What happens here? A ledger entry is made locally that deducts the money from Anjali's account and adds that same amount into Rahul's account. Now, version 2, both of them have different banks, and the banks have direct relationship with each other. So Anjali's bank transfers. So what happens here is there's a minus entry in Anjali's account, then a plus entry in the bank's account. The bank transfers that money to another bank, where there's another minus entry in the account of the bank, and there's a plus entry in Rahul's account, right? So you see how just having two different banks is kind of complicating this. Now let's assume that these two banks do not have a relationship with each other. So you have to go through a central authority, which will essentially route the money. So you can see the complexity, how it is increasing over here. There are 4 different entries that need to be made to ensure that the money gets transferred into Rahul's account, right? And then you have this thing called international transfers, where there are no central banks. There are just networks of banks. Like, there is no central bank for the world, right? You have central banks in India, you have central bank in US, you have in other countries. And if I have to send money from my ICICI bank to, let's say, JP Morgan in the US, then the money has to go from my ICICI to Citibank in India, and from Citibank to Barclays in the UK, and from the UK it goes to JP Morgan, or it goes to someone else who has a direct relationship with JP Morgan, and that's how the money gets eventually transferred into the recipient's account. So you see there is a lot of ledger entries being made, pluses and minuses happening all across this whole chain, right? And this is typically how finance works at the back end. We see all these cool apps which are essentially doing all the transfers, but at the back end, money is still being transferred using 1970s technology, which is Telegram. You know, these Telegram lines that were drawn out back in the day, that people used to get telegrams, which used to be just 5 words and stuff. If you look at a modern Swift transaction, you can ask them for a receipt, and the receipt shows you exactly like 10 or 15 words will only be there in that whole transaction, since they're sending it through a telegram. And so these are the 5 key problems in finance, essentially, which is inefficiency, it's high fees, high settlement times, and physical infrastructure is required. Interoperability, that is, banks have to communicate with each other, hence they need rules to communicate with each other, otherwise it will be chaos, right? Opacity, you do not know what happens behind the scenes once you make a transfer. centralized control, that is, money is in the hands of a few banks, and they are the ones who are controlling the flow of the money. And there is limited access, which means that about 1.7 billion people in the world are still unbanked. The reason why this is there is because banks do not open branches in areas that are not profitable to them. I don't know if you guys know, and maybe some of you are from belong to places where banks simply do not open up their branches because they are like, hey, if we set up a branch in this particular location, there are not enough customers who will essentially come to our bank. So we need to keep it in a much more central city kind of a place so that we can attract more customers. And this is pretty much prevalent in India as well. I have worked in a few rural areas, and I did see this being a major issue with essentially people not accessing banking facilities, right? So moving on, so this is essentially how complicated the system is with respect to just clearing and settling any kind of exchange related transaction. And this is primarily for stock trading, how complicated things become, right? So bottom line is that finance currently is very complicated. There are many parties involved. It's very expensive, and there are lots of frictions and points of failure. So you can see if it is this complicated, any point of failure will definitely affect a lot of the system, right? And as a bank, also you're kind of worried about that, and that's the reason why they overstaff a lot of times to ensure that everything is double checked, triple checked to enable that kind of smooth flow of not smooth flow, I would say, to essentially reduce their risk that they get exposed to. So what is essentially then decentralized finance? Essentially a provision of financial services without the necessary involvement of a traditional financial intermediary. So that's a lot to digest. So let me just break it down for you. What it means is that financial services can be provided without need of a bank or a broker dealer or any insurance corporation or any kind of central authority, right? So wouldn't it be just a crazy thought? Wouldn't it be nice if there was just a single ledger or a common resource that can essentially transfer the money from Anjali's account into Rahul's account? Wouldn't that be easy? The current existing solutions are Paytm, WeChat, and all these guys, they do the same thing, single ledger and a common resource, right? But there is an issue. The power gets concentrated in a few players, and they can do anything with your data, they can do anything with your money. So as a result, same thing, reiterating the same thing. Having a single ledger will solve the problem, but it will cause all the power to be in the hands of a few entities, right? So instead of a single computer or a single server having the data, what if the same data or the same ledger is spread across the world and you have multiple copies of the same ledger, all of them connected with each other, and it's spread all around the world, right? Wouldn't that be crazy, right? Now, this is called a distributed ledger. That there are multiple copies that have nodes of they are called nodes and have the copies of the same ledger, which means that there's no central database, hence no central authority has control. Network is spread across the globe, but there's one big question: who gets to decide which copy is the real one? Right? You can't, like, some. If let's assume we put up a distributed ledger across the world, and there is a copy in India, and the Indian government, if India has the authority to put it, some player in India says that, hey, we need to increase our account details by XYZ amount, right? And if they try to do that, and then the same amount is sent to all across the world, they would not need not agree with it. And let's assume they do agree with it. Why is it right? Isn't it like counterproductive to the whole system of having a ledger only in the first place, right? So the answer is that all of them have to reach some kind of consensus. The majority of the network participants should agree that certain transactions have happened on the network or certain changes have happened on the ledger, right? So this is called a joint single system of shared resource or a common infrastructure. So features are that secure storage of information and transfer of value guaranteed over execution of code, right? And this is the premise of blockchain technology, that information is stored all across the world. It's secure, easy to transfer, and it can be done just with the execution of code, and you do not need people in the process. Right? What does it mean? What does it deliver? It's an open platform. It has global reach, and finance becomes frictionless. Right? So again, the question is, who gets to update? Right? Consensus is needed to update. Can the past be altered? No, it should not be able to be altered. It's called immutability. And can a higher body prevent transactions? It's called censorship resistance, right? You need all of these things in a public blockchain. And Bitcoin is one of those blockchains, which are essentially a public distributed ledger with a copy of the ledger spread across multiple countries in the world, which maintain a copy of it. And any changes or any addition or any transfer of value from one wallet to another person's wallet is happening through a code which essentially incentivizes the network participants to stay on it. That's a lot to digest. I understand that. But in a nutshell, what it essentially is that it's just a big network of computers all talking to each other, verifying transactions, and any transaction that has been confirmed 6 times on the network is considered a valid transaction. Right, how it works into it, I will not go into it because of lack of time. So in a nutshell, I will just sum it up for you. Blockchain technology, banks require trusted intermediaries, traditional finance, I mean, like banks, clearinghouses, custodians, centralized authority. Blockchain technology will completely replace the whole financial system, mainly because you don't need transacting parties to trust each other to have a transaction. Everything is done on the network. You just need to be present on the network to essentially enable a transaction. It is secure, the ledger cannot be changed, and everyone has a copy of the transaction history. It's decentralized, which means the incentive is to stay on the network is through something called mining rewards, and that ensures that, and it is not given by any central authority. These rewards are given by the code, right? And it's cheap. You do not need to pay people in between for the execution. So that is blockchain 1.0, which is the first solution to this thing called the double spending problem, which
Sir,
again,
uh,
sorry.
Yamini had a question. Like, if someone can control a number of computers, won't they become the monopoly in the blockchain network?
Yes, if it can control 51% of the nodes, it will become a monopoly. But currently, with Bitcoin, what happens is that the nodes are spread across the world, and anytime someone tries to control one of them, anyone can start a node. So it is something called there is something called a Nakamoto coefficient, which you can look at to see how decentralized the system is. And Bitcoin is one of the highly decentralized systems, and it is very difficult to control the control 51% of the nodes in the network. It can happen in the early days. It could have happened, but it has evolved. Or about it's been about 10, 11 years now since Bitcoin has come out, and in that time, it has become decentralized enough and is spread across enough number of market participants that such a monopoly is much very difficult for anyone to get right now. So that is blockchain 1.0. Blockchain 2.0 is basically it's called Ethereum or Ethereum or smart contract platforms. This was Ethereum came in 2015. These guys, what they figured out is that now that you can essentially transfer value across with a code, can you not also make contracts on code? That is, let's say, I'll give you an example. How well, let's say Anjali and Rahul plays a bet. It's an India versus Australia match. If India wins, Anjali will pay Rahul 1 Bitcoin. Australia wins, the opposite happens. Now, if you have to do this kind of a transaction in real world, how will you do it? You will place the bet, shake hands, and then what? India wins. Anjali is supposed to pay Rahul, but Anjali is like, "Hey, I don't want to pay you. I don't even remember you making the bet, right? I don't even remember making the bet. What recourse does Rahul have? He pretty much has no other recourse unless there was a witness. And even if the witness pressurizes the person, they still, if Anjali refuses to pay, then Rahul will have to take Anjali to court and then prove the fact that they may place the bet, prove that the bet was legal, and then the court will force Anjali to pay. Now think about it. If it was just a 500 rupee bet, would you go through all these trouble? No, right? Because going to a court and making a judge taking chance on the fact that the judge will make Anjali pay is itself it's very costly, right? So the cost of executing that contract itself is high, and as a result you would not such a contract is very difficult to happen also, right? But think about what if you kind of coded your bet onto the blockchain, and you said, hey, the code will essentially go to Cricinfo's website and check whether India won or Australia won. The moment India wins, the money that Anjali has to pay to Rahul gets automatically transferred from her wallet to Rahul's wallet, and there is no third party in between who's executing this transaction. So that is essentially what it is. The contracts can be executed without the need for intermediaries, right? And this is a revolution in itself, right? Which means there are a lot of implications in financial sector, in any other sector that you can say you shake hand and have a deal with someone, and if they need if the condition of the deal is met, then the payment should go, and and if it can be verified online, it is easy to it can be coded into the smart contract. So one of the few applications are disbursement of loans, insurance contracts, employment contracts, and definitely there are hundreds of use cases which are yet to be discovered. So you do not need trust to essentially enter into contracts because of this. You can enter into contract with strangers. That's the beauty of this system. So why should we care about all of this right now? So you can see the blue line is the adoption of internet, right? It has grown from zero in 1995 all the way to 5 billion in around 2020, right? And then you have this whole growth of digital payments, which started very late, I would say, around 2008, and it has gone all the way up to around 2.5 billion to 2.6 billion right now, right? And then we see blockchain users, the growth of blockchain users starting in 2014. Around that's when a lot of transactions started happening on the blockchain. And then you can see this hockey stick growth of blockchain users that's happening right now. Currently, it's more than this. It's around 300 million plus users, and yeah, of course, blockchain user growth is on this axis. So you can see over here how this hockey stick growth is going to continue for a while till this industry essentially captures early users, and in the next 2-3 years it's the most exciting time when a lot of new people are going to come into this ecosystem and explore new offerings and new ways of essentially doing not only business, finance, but also stuff in the metaverse. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot of exciting things happening over here. So just to give you a broad overview of what the infrastructure layer looks like, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum. These are the layer one, it's called the base blockchain. And then there's this L2, which is a layer two, which has protocols which make Bitcoin, Ethereum even more faster, make it scale to many more users. Because Bitcoin being the first technology in this space was limited. Think about the first computer that was ever built. It was a slow computer for today's standards, but from a proof of concept point of view, it was definitely a revolution. So come in the next 2-3 years, what we'll see is a much more evolved version of the blockchain where you can essentially plug and play different kinds of applications and build on top of it, right? And the crypto landscape looks pretty much like this, is that you have these WazirX and ZepPay, which are the platforms from which you can buy crypto in India. And then there are these platforms, Coinbase, Binance, which are foreign exchanges, and FTX. FTX is one of the funders for Sahi Coin as well. So these are the guys who are essentially internationally more prominent in this space. So what do? We help users like you and me to figure out this whole landscape, what it is, how it functions, what do you put in there, how can I get the best out of these evolving technology, And we do it through an interactive gamified app, which essentially enables you to learn quickly and get into a place where you can also invest in these coins, invest in these tokens, and get be a part of the next crypto revolution. Final thoughts. Blockchain is a transformative technology, but won't be used in practice overnight. It'll take some time for it to, for you to see, applications built on the blockchain in your phone or on your laptop. It will open up the banking world further, fostering international competition. And India is definitely in the right place to leverage this. The main reason being we have a good pool of engineering graduates and technology graduates who can definitely put in the sweat and blood to essentially make this work in the coming future and lead the industry globally in this space. Of course, there's a lot of conceptual and technological challenges that are still need to be figured out. But there are already these are being applied, and as and when the technology progresses, you will see a lot of new applications coming out and the technology improving even further. There are a lot of legal and regulatory and competitive changes that are needed, but then opportunities are endless. Um, we'll see a lot of business development happening in private and public, semi-public space, and a strong increase in recent activity. But there's not need of too much testing of the technology anymore, but all these processes need to be re-engineered to essentially fit blockchain into it. So that's pretty much a lot about what Sahi coin is and what crypto is and what blockchain is. But I want to know more about why you guys are here and what um, what you guys are looking to take away from it. Okay, there are some questions. I'll just answer them before going into the next section. Okay, what's a smart contract? Okay, you have Vignesh, I guess you got the answer to that. Can government control bitcoins in the market is affecting common people who have invested in Bitcoin? Okay, so Bitcoin, the network cannot be controlled by anyone. The government cannot control the control bitcoins. If your bitcoin is bought from an exchange, let's say WazirX or someone, and if your bitcoin is kept in that exchange, if the government can force that exchange to close down, right? And thus, if they close down without telling you, then you will lose your bitcoins. What you need to do once you buy bitcoins is then move it to your own personal wallet. You would need to set up your own wallet and move those bitcoins from WazirX's wallet to your own wallet. Once you do that, it will be on your laptop, or you just need a seed phrase. It's a phrase of 12 words that you just need to remember or write it down, and you can access your funds from anywhere in the world just using those 12 words. You don't even need to keep the you don't even if you don't have the software version of the money in your laptop, or even if you lose your laptop, you can still recover your funds with those 12 words from anywhere in the world, right? So if government wants to control Bitcoin, the only thing that they can do is shut down the internet, and that's the only way you can essentially control it. So how is ISA enforced, and if it is on a blockchain that is legally binding? What is ISA, if you don't mind me asking?
Sir, I guess that's Indian Standard of Agreements.
What does that imply? In what context?
Basically, it's like a set of, yeah, like it's like some rules you have to follow while making contracts.
So any kind of contract that would be made on the Ethereum contract would not be compliant with ISA. Would not need to be compliant with ISA. You would have to essentially understand what it entails, especially if your money is being locked up in those contracts. It won't be. There's the question of legally binding does not exist, because the execution of the contract will happen automatically, right? So legally binding only means you would have to go and challenge it, right, in a court of law, right? So these are self-executing contracts. So that question itself does not arise in this case. Can you explain what is gas fee and why it is a problem? So Ethereum network, essentially what it does. So in blockchain, what happens is that each of the transactions get queued one after the other. And what Ethereum blockchain enabled is that if you are willing to pay more for your transaction to get validated first, you can essentially pay extra amount in Ethereum itself as gas fees and put your transaction up in the queue. So it gives people who are willing to pay more an opportunity to essentially get ahead of the line in terms of verifying that transaction. So all these nodes, they have to reach consensus, I said, for your transaction to be added to the ledger. And that consensus mechanism only takes a certain number of transactions per block. Right. So if you need to be on that block, you need to pay extra fees. So what happens? It becomes like a competition. Whoever can pay more will end up having to will end up having the opportunity to add more to quickly do their transaction. So what happens is since a lot of people would want theirs to go, they'll end up putting more and more gas fees. So and then it reaches a market equilibrium where no one there is a maximum amount that a lot of people are willing to pay, and that gets set as the gas fees, right? That's how it happens. Don't you think Bitcoin will give free hand to terror funding and facilitate transaction for bad guys? The government can't able to track it. That is a wrong concept. What Bitcoin is that it is open and it is a public blockchain. On a public blockchain, you can look at every transaction and see where every transaction has gone. So, for example, if you want to buy Bitcoin, you would buy it from WazirX. WazirX has your KYC details. And from WazirX, if you transfer the Bitcoin to someone else's wallet, you can still track whose wallet it went to. Did they encash it in, let's say, Coinbase in the US? Then the government can definitely track. Not just government, you can yourself track it, right? Where the issue happens is there are private blockchains. Those are called they do not reveal the address to which the amount gets transferred to. A few examples are Monero and Zcash, and these are the ones that even the Indian government is planning to ban. And in my opinion, that is something that they should be doing as well to answer your point, Kisha.
Sir, can I add on your
Mhm.
on the previous thing you said? Can I add on a question?
Mhm.
Like, so agar Bitcoin or the open or the public blockchains are allowed in India, so corruption and terror funding can they go down because of it? Or
Yeah, it can be because it is visible. It is tracked. You can track it.
like if you convert the Indian rupee to something similar to Bitcoin?
Yeah, and it is kept in a blockchain. It can be tracked because the ways to essentially buy Bitcoin can be controlled by the government. Right.
Yes, and my point is like making Bitcoin or in the Indian rupee something like the Bitcoin, making it the official currency of India.
Right.
Would
You're
that
talking about something like a central bank digital currency. Like the INR
yeah,
can be made into a programmable money or a
yeah.
ledger. Right. Yeah. That is one of the things that a lot of countries are working towards. And Canada is kind of ahead of that race. They have already piloted it in Canada, the digital CAD. Then there are a few other countries also which are essentially doing that. India is in talks to do that. We don't know when they will essentially do it. It needs to be piloted. It needs to be tested before it can be released to the public. China has done their own version of it, but it is not based on blockchain technology. But it is still a programmable money, is what they have essentially created. Yamini is asking, I'm not sure if you can share this, but curious, what crypto would you recommend investing in? I would not recommend investing in any crypto because one of the reasons is because this is a place where you need to do your own research to figure out where to invest in. One of the leaders in the space is Bitcoin, which is the largest trust network right now. So maybe that's a good place to start with and figure out what are the other cryptos that you can invest in. And I'm not recommending anything mainly because I do not want you to by it just because I'm saying it, but because you believe in it and you have done your own research, right? So moving on, let me just move on to what else do you think? What did I do over here? We gave some blockchain funding. Do you think जॉब इंटर्न का मौका मिल सकता है? Do you
Sir,
think
I would like an intern offer if possible.
what else can you do here? I think Yamini wants to become a millionaire, so uh, uh, कंपनी का प्रमोशन भी कर रहा है थोड़ा बहुत. Please don't mind me for shamelessly saying that. And definitely we'll be giving out some goodies over here. So let's just get into it. What we are essentially trying to do with you guys and how you guys can start contributing and help. We can also figure out how to help you get into the ecosystem. Right. So we've come up with this thing called Sahi Coin Challenge. It's a learn to earn challenge, which means that you can learn about cryptos and blockchain and what all exciting stuff are happening out there. And you get a chance to earn in the process as well. I'll go into detail of what it is. You guys, have you guys ever copied in an exam?
Sir, I guess the answer would be yes for all of us.
I think everyone's keeping quiet because who's giving me a Steve Carroll a meme over there. So yes, so I wouldn't want to comment on whether anyone has copied or not, and I don't want you to reveal it. But all of us know what this is, right? When you do not know the answer to someone, you ask your friend, right? And but the thing is that yeah, you do it to clear your exams, but can you earn, right? And that's Akshay Kumar saying it. Yeah, बहुत interesting. Um, Now I'll tell you what the scheme is. All right. Oh, so what is SahiCoin to begin with? So SahiCoin is the world's first social investment platform where users can learn, collaborate, practice, trade, get social sentiment signals, earn as they contribute, trade, and become experts or acquire skills in blockchain, crypto, NFT, Web3. Did you understand anything? So simple भाषा में बताता हूँ कि SahiCoin is a social investment platform where you can discover new opportunities in crypto with your friends and experts. So like just like what we do over here with exchanging notes with your friends, that is the kind of thing that you can do on the platform to understand, learn more about crypto, learn from your friends and experts. And it was started by three of us, me, Amit, and Ankush. All three of us are batchmates from IIT Kanpur. And we have been investing since 2017. And what we did is essentially the same thing. We used to compare our notes on how we invested and how we were able to essentially grow our investments, how to analyze the technology, how to evaluate it, how to financially make sense of it. These are the kind of thing that we did independently. And when we got together, we realized that we could learn from each other and make it even better. So we thought, why not build a platform that enables people to do it? And that's how SahiCoin was born. And we have a strong team over here, which essentially building it out for the next billion users in crypto. So as a student, what's in it for you and how can you leverage this opportunity? So just let me tell you something. 50% of all jobs in the next 5 years will be in the Web 3.0 ecosystem. So around the time that we were graduating in 2011, most of the jobs were in web. I would say it was transitioning between Web 2 to mobile, and we were in that right place where we could essentially learn about how to transition ourselves from that phase of using Facebook on your phone, on your computer, to essentially building mobile apps. And that's how we made our transition and we were able to get ahead. But it's been 10 years down the line, that technology is changing again, and there's this whole new technology called Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is all about what you see on the internet, plus the fact that you can own parts of it as well. Currently, the way you interact with internet is that you contribute over there and you read stuff over there, but you don't own anything on the internet. You either own stuff in your banks or you own stuff in some mutual funds or anything that is always with a third party custodian. what happens with Web3 is that in your wallet, you can own pieces of the internet, whether it be NFTs, JPEGs, or anything of that sort, right? So let's move. Let me just tell you a bit about what kind of jobs are there in the market. So going forward, what we'll see, there's this huge requirement for asset managers and crypto traders. Marketing, growth, and community management is one of the roles that are out there. Product managers for Web3 products. What you see right now is Web2 product managers, and these are the jobs that people get right out of graduation. Right, people learn about financial modeling in stocks, which can directly be put into the DeFi space and insurance protocols, investment research, entrepreneurship, and I'm sure a lot of people would be thinking, hey, I can be the next Mark Zuckerberg. I'm telling you right now, you can be, because no one understands Web3 yet. And you guys would be the first people to essentially experience it and build stuff on it, right? And then, of course, developers, you need developers to build the whole thing out. So what do you need to get ahead of the curve? First of all, you need knowledge. Second thing is you need to know the right people by networking. And the third thing is you need to learn by doing it. So what we are helping you do is learn about stuff on the app, practice crypto with virtual trading on the app. You can essentially start trading and make your own strategies on how to invest, and then you can multiply and grow your own portfolio. But we do have a system called Sahi Points on the app. These Sahi Points can be earned, and it can be also invested and grown as well. And especially when we release our token, you will definitely get a proportionate allocation based on the number of Sahi Points you have, right? But that's not the fun part. We do have rewards for the winners. For IIT Roorkee, we are doing a college level Sahi Coin challenge, where you'll get weekly rewards of up to 10,000 rupees, and it will be running for a month. And the people will be also be rewarded for getting users to the platform through referrals, and whoever gets in the most number of users, who gets the most number of cards on SahiCoin, you'll get rewards for it as well. And you can, and definitely we'll be giving your own personal NFTs, NFT certificate of participation for all the active users on the platform, which you can show off on your profiles, which will mint it for you, and you can be a part of the Web3 revolution. But there's a bit more. The top performers will get a chance to work with SahiCoin team in live projects, and will lead to internships and full-time offers. So any of you guys are excited by any of these propositions, you can download the SahiCoin app right now, just scanning this QR code. Join the Telegram group. I'll share the link for the QR code for the Telegram group, and start earning your Sahi points. So I'll leave that on the screen for about 2 minutes. You guys can scan it, download the app, and yeah, we can go forward from there. So Sunil, my colleague, has actually posted the link for on the chat as well. So you can log in using that. You can give your details using that. Assuming you guys have a chance to scan the QR code, I'm moving forward. So this is the exclusive Telegram group where we'll be discussing about the rewards, the leaderboards, and of course there'll be a lot of job references over here. You can ask any questions. If you have any doubt, you can put it over there. I'll definitely be active on the group, and I'll be answering your questions. So yeah, and if you want to get any specific crypto tips, like Yamini mentioned, which crypto to buy, we might end up discussing that over there. Just be aware that we won't directly recommend anything. A lot of times we'll be discussing about the technology and how it is better than the rest. So you would need to understand that to pick up those signals and then figure out what those tips are. So there's some amount of work that needs to be done from your end also to understand the technology, and that's I would say that is one of the things that you have to do to learn more about the space, right? So please join the Telegram group, and that's where, even if you don't have the link, just join the Telegram group. We'll post it over there, and yeah, get you started on the Sahi Coin challenge.
It was nice having you, sir, at this platform, and I think I learned a lot new things about blockchain that I didn't heard, and a lot other things about crypto and other things. I li- I think we all will take part in the crypto challenge by Sahi Coin, and hope you also had a nice answer.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot the name again. Vansh, right?
Uh, Pranav, sir.
Sorry, Pranav. Sorry,
Pra-
Pranav. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate you guys taking out the time, and thanks a lot for all the people who have joined the session. And thanks for making it interactive. Looking forward to seeing all of you on Telegram, and yeah, all the best. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, sir.